All right, a happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into the show. We're trying to flush that embarrassing Eagles loss to the New York Giants last night. We got off the air about, 12 hours ago, but it's time to recap everything that happened and transpired at MetLife Stadium last night. One of the worst Eagles defeats in recent memory, and this show is going to serve as a therapy session for Eagles fans out there. So let's get through it together on this Friday, October 10th. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Coming up here on the show, what a horrendous loss on Thursday Night Football for the Birds. We've let it marinate a little bit, and we have to dive into it all. This Eagles offense is a mess right now. Why is that? I have some answers to that. It is gut check time for Nick Sirianni. As a CEO head coach, what happened last night? Inexcusable. I'm also going to explain, surprisingly, how Howie Roseman has failed the 2025 version of the Philadelphia Eagles. And the big question, can this offense get fixed? We're going to touch on all of that and dissect it all here on Eagles Now. I do want to take your questions because I know a lot of you have questions. You have some hot takes, and you need to get some stuff off your chest, right? So get your questions in right now. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat because we're going to do a mailbag, open up the floor, and talk everything over with all of you. It is a therapy session on this Friday, October 10th. If you're ready to talk some Eagles, Chase Sr., producer Chip here with you. Nearly 250 people watching live. A lot of people getting that push notification, starting to pile into the show. I do ask you for a favor, though. Can you please hit that thumbs up icon and like the video? The more likes that we get, the more people who find the stream, the more people who come in here. And we have a special show on tap for all of you because you're not getting this Eagles coverage anywhere else. And I was looking on YouTube. No other Eagles YouTube channels are live right now, but we are here on Eagles Now because we're providing for the people. Let's get into it all. Shout out to the recent commenter club, Stephen Williams, Raz, Cody English, Keem, Blast Entertainment, Peter Riley, and Henry. If you have some super chats, get those in as well. And let's start the official show live on Philadelphia Eagles Now on this Loser Friday because it certainly ain't a Victory Friday. Here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And look, this is going to be a therapy session. I know all of you are hurting. I'm hurting, but we're going to try to talk through it all, and we're going to try to get some answers for why this Eagles team is struggling and why they were outclassed by a bad Giants team on Thursday Night Football. An inexcusable loss for Philadelphia, and the two words that really come to mind when I think about that Eagles defeat, number one, embarrassing. Number two, soft. The Eagles got punked by the Giants 34-17, and this goes down as one of the worst Eagles losses in a while. This is the first time that the Eagles have lost back-to-back games since the 2023 season. It's the most points they've given up to the New York Giants going all the way back to 2012. That was Andy Reid's final year as the head coach of the Eagles when he went 4-12 that year, and then he got fired. And the performance that we saw at MetLife Stadium last night was despicable. It was disgusting. It was maddening. And again, it was embarrassing. This is a Giants team that is in rebuilding mode. This is a Giants team that had a rookie quarterback, one of the worst wide receiver rooms in all of football, a defense that had been horrible all year. This is a Giants team that went on the road in week 5, went up 14-3 against the Saints, then outscored from that point forward 23-0, and they turned the ball over 5 times. And on a short week, you get punched in the chin like that. And what was so concerning is that the Eagles played like the inferior team. The Eagles played like a soft team. The Eagles did not want that smoke at all with New York. Jackson Dart was fantastic in his third career start, 17-25, 195 yards, a touchdown. Cam Scadaboo was running over and through this Eagles defense, 19 totes for 98 yards and 3 tutties. And Wan'Dale Robinson had one of the games of his life, 6 catches for 84 yards. And when I say that the Eagles were beat up by the G-men, there's no other way to put it. And on offense, defense, and on special teams, this was a collective failure of a loss for the Eagles. 1 of 9 on third down. They only had 73 yards rushing. They had 5 rushing first downs. They gave up 3 sacks, only sacked Jackson Dart twice. Jackson Dart was able to create plays out of structure on third downs and keep the chains moving. Eagles lost the turnover battle 2-0. The Giants, on the other hand, 11 of 16 on third downs. They ran for 172 yards. They ran for 14 first downs. They got after Jalen Hurts. They pressured him, and they played a clean game, did not turn the football over once. And why this loss is so concerning and perplexing, and why a lot of us are flummoxed by this, it is so rare to see the Eagles get bullied like they got bullied on Thursday night, especially with how the 2024 team was built and how they went about their business. They own the line of scrimmage, and on offense, on defense, they played a physical brand of football. But last night, that was not the case. The Eagles were incredibly soft. The Giants wanted it more. The Eagles were outclassed, outcoached, out-executed, out-physicaled. And for Nick Sirianni, he is not a scheme guy. And so he needs his teams to do the little things right. He needs his teams to be disciplined and foundationally sound. He needs his teams to execute in all 3 phases. He needs his teams to display effort and to play hard. Nick Sirianni failed, and this loss is certainly on him and how he runs this operation. And the fact that Cam Scadaboo smelled blood and was able to, with no fear, just run over this Eagles defense, this looked like the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles that was scared of tackling anybody. Philadelphia couldn't stop the run. The third down defense stunk. The third down offense was atrocious. The offense once again had one solid half of football, and Jalen Hurts was bad in this game. And a lot of this defeat is on the Eagles franchise quarterback. And as you look ahead and you think about the current status of the NFC East, you have the Eagles reeling. They're 4-2. But their 4 wins kind of fluky, like a lot of the wins to start the year in 2023. Their 2 losses are certainly perplexing, and we've seen some concerning trends with those losses. The Giants have a lot of juice with Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo. They're a young and up-and-coming team. Jaden Daniels balling with Washington. They just picked up a good win on the road against the Chargers last week. Dak Prescott is playing like an MVP, and right now, when it looked like a couple of weeks ago when the Eagles got off to that 4-0 start, this was their division trying to become back-to-back NFC East champions for the first time since 2004 because no team has done that inside the division. It was looking like the Eagles could run away with this division. Now, it's looking like the NFC East is wide open. And what I'm surprised by is that I didn't think I would be calling the Eagles a soft football team after how they played last year and the identity that they were able to establish. They wore teams down throughout the course of a 60-minute ball game. On offense and on defense, they took your will, they took your soul, and they were unrelenting as a football team. They were like a boa constrictor. They would strangle you throughout the course of 4 quarters. And sometimes when you even knew what the Eagles were going to do, they were so much more talented, so much more disciplined, so much more scheme sound that they would still be able to execute. They didn't turn the football over. They forced a bunch of giveaways. They played a lot of clutch football. And they had one of the most dominant runs, one of the most dominant teams, and they went on one of the most dominant Super Bowl runs in the history of the National Football League. But here we are a season later, and the Eagles are a far cry from the team that we saw last year. It's not to say that it can't get better, but right now, if it doesn't get fixed, this thing could get off the rails very quickly. And I know that in my postgame show, I had mentioned how that Buccaneers loss in week 4 last year to drop the Eagles to 2-2 when they lost big was ugly and it was listless. But in that game, Lane Johnson, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith did not play. You were playing in a tough environment, tough weather conditions. And after that week 5 bye, following that loss, you really started to get it together. And this time last year, the Eagles found their identity. They found a groove. They found a rhythm. But here we are, and a lot of the questions that we've had with this football team all year are still lingering questions. And so I think this Giants loss is the worst defeat for the Eagles since 2023 when they lost at home in a must-win game with the division on the line against the 3-win Cardinals when they let that game completely slip away. Right now for the Philadelphia Eagles, it is time to nut up or shut up. If the Eagles do not correct course very quickly, this thing could go off the rails fast. They don't have an identity. They don't do anything well. And right now, the Philadelphia Eagles are a team where they don't look like a collective, as Jalen Hurts likes to say. And now you look ahead to week 7, it doesn't get any easier. Yes, this schedule is hard, but that's what you get when you're the defending Super Bowl champions. And now the Minnesota Vikings await. Not only is that one of the more difficult places to play, this Vikings team, I know they have Carson Wentz at quarterback, and that's going to be a revenge game for him, but they have one of the best offensive minds in football at head coach in Kevin O'Connell. They have one of the best defensive coordinators in the game in Brian Flores. Going up against Kevin Patullo, Flores could eat his lunch. And given what we've seen from this Eagles offense, who's to say that they're going to get things corrected quickly? And this Eagles secondary last night against the Giants really struggled mightily. Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson, just a joke of a performance from both of those players, and the Eagles couldn't hold up in coverage. And now they have to go up against a Kevin O'Connell offense, and they have to find a way to defend Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. And you know how Cam Scatterbo runs really hard? Well, so too does Jordan Mason. That's their running back. And you think that Carson Wentz is going to want to get his revenge on the Eagles? Of course he is. So much more to get to here on the show, but a reminder, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Win or lose, I'm bringing you nonstop Eagles coverage, and I'm here for all of you. Want to say thank you to all of the real ones for getting us past 133,000 subscribers. Continue to show love and hop on board right now. Lane Johnson, I thought, said it best, and it's very telling that Lane Johnson was vocal after the game because he always picks and chooses his spots. After the Eagles lost that Week 4 game against the Bucs, and it looked as though the season was circling the drain, he really led a conversation and a discussion among the leaders within the Philadelphia Eagles organization in this offense becoming a run-heavy team. In this team course-correcting and getting on track. And so when he speaks, it speaks volumes about where the Eagles are as a team because he's not going to talk if there's not substance, if it's not important. And he said last night after the game, we're just not very good right now. And I think that is apt. I think that is accurate. The Philadelphia Eagles as a football team just aren't a very good team right now. And we must ask ourselves this question. What are the Eagles good at currently? Defense has shown a lot of vulnerabilities, and Nick Sirianni preaches perfecting things that take no talent. Hustling, tackling, effort, being disciplined, being buttoned up, being smart. The Eagles are missing all of those things right now, and that too is on Nick Sirianni. The Eagles told us after that Broncos game, they have told us over the last couple of weeks that they have been close to putting it together. It all comes down to execution, that this was supposed to be a get-right game. And what happened? They got straight up waxed against a Giants team that entered coming off one of the worst losses that you will see against the New Orleans Saints, a Saints team that was winless going into last week. More from Lane Johnson. We were winning, but we weren't dominating. It's frustrating. You see the guys that we have on the offensive side of the ball, we should be doing a lot more to help our defense out. It's frustrating, but nothing we can't turn around. And so he's accurate in that assessment right there, but is he accurate in saying that they can turn it around? We will see. And we'll see if the Eagles can stay together. This isn't the Jacksonville Jaguars where fans don't really care, where the media pressure and fan pressure is not there. This isn't the Arizona Cardinals where you can go into work and walk around Scottsdale, Glendale, or Phoenix, and nobody really knows where you are. In the city of Philadelphia, the media pressure is there. The fans are loud. The fans are passionate. There is a lot of pressure. You're going to be talked about on 94.1 WIP, 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports Philadelphia, on this show. You're going to be recognized everywhere you go because the Eagles are part of the fabric of the city of Philadelphia. They're part of the heartbeat and the pulse of the city. Everybody cares. Everybody is passionate. And when things start to go awry, when things start to circle the toilet, you can either collapse and fold, or you can rise up like the Eagles did last year, use it as a rallying cry to really get it together and find it. And time will tell if the Eagles are able to do that. Now, coming up next, we have to have a conversation about Jalen Hurts because Jalen Hurts last night was awful. And I have long defended Hurts, but last night, indefensible performance from him. Let's get to our sponsor, though, our friends at PrizePicks, making today's Philadelphia Eagles now possible. PrizePicks is the #1 fantasy sports app in North America. You can get your picks in less than 60 seconds. It's very easy to play. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. PrizePicks also has a couple of new features. It's the same lineup, only on PrizePicks. You can also follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just somebody whose picks you like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. Here's our 3-pick power play for some Week 6 action. Matthew Stafford, more than 260.5 passing yards, going up against a Baltimore defense that is injury-riddled. Baker Mayfield, more than 238.5 passing yards, going up against a banged-up Niners defense. And then Jaden Daniels, more than 217.5 passing yards against Chicago. I think that number is really low. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. All right, let's have a conversation about this offense and Jalen Hurts. What are the issues with this Eagles offense right now? It is safe to say it is both a Kevin Patullo and Jalen Hurts problem. And this has been an issue all year. This was an issue back in 2023. The Eagles are a pretty predictable team on offense, depending on what their scheme is, what their alignment is, how they're set up throughout the course of a game. A defense might struggle to defend the Eagles early on, but right now, they are learning to adapt, read, and react to what the Eagles do, and the Eagles become very predictable and easy to defend. And this is a play calling problem. This is a scheme problem. It is also an execution problem, and it's self-inflicted by the Eagles. And what I mean by self-inflicted wounds, when you turn the football over, for instance, or you have a negative play on first down so that you're behind the sticks on second down, making second and third a lot harder. It is pre-snap penalties where you shoot yourselves in the foot, where you might pick up a big play and you might move the chains, but then a penalty negates it. It's not getting set like Saquon Barkley on that big fourth down play against the Denver Broncos. So really everything that can go wrong or could go wrong for the Eagles has gone wrong for this Eagles offense, and that's why it's been such an ugly showing for the Eagles the first 6 games of the year. I will say this, that even when the Eagles were great offensively in 2022 under Shane Steichen and in 2024 under Kellen Moore, this offense has never been a masterpiece. It has never been a Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell type of offense where it takes the league by storm, and a lot of teams try to adapt and copy what the Eagles do. It's an offense where the Eagles maximize the players on the roster, they tap into and rely on their strengths, and they really rely on doing the little things well and executing to a pristine level. But when you have bad execution and you're not playing well and the play calling isn't good, it makes all of it worse to a point where everything is starting to snowball. And sometimes good offensive coordinators and good offensive minds have to hide a quarterback's weaknesses. Shane Steichen did it with Jalen Hurts. Kellen Moore, as the season progressed last year, did it with Jalen Hurts. But this year, with Kevin Patullo, we're not seeing screens. We're not seeing RPOs. We're not seeing moving pockets. They're predictable when they're in the gun. He's barely under center. Kevin Patullo just needs to do a better job of being more creative and vast with his play calling and what the Eagles have at their disposal with what they can run on offense. And this really is inexcusable here. Here is how the Eagles have fared in the second half of the last 3 games. This is their collective drive charts here. Fumble, interception, 3 and out, punt, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, punt, touchdown, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, touchdown, punt, 3 and out. Obviously, this Eagles defense didn't play great against the Giants, and the Eagles defense is going to get docked with giving up 18 fourth quarter points against the Broncos the week prior, but the offense is doing nothing to help this Eagles defense out. And going back to Jalen Hurts here, he didn't play well against the Giants. He left a lot of meat on the bone and left a lot of plays on the field. A huge Jalen Hurts strength throughout his career is throwing the deep ball. He's been one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL, but this has been an area that has escaped him this season. It's an area in which he's really struggled with this year, and this is certainly a concerning trend because the Eagles are missing out on a lot of explosive plays and a lot of explosive plays that can change the course of a ball game. He was unable to connect with A.J. Brown on the long ball against the Broncos, which would have put the Eagles up 24-3. Would have been ball game. And then last night, he missed on a couple of huge plays, which could have altered the complexion of the game. And Hurts this season on targets of 10-plus yards downfield has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. This is a huge surprise, given his previous success. He's 10 for 28 on these throws. He has a passer rating of 4.8. His completion rate is 35.7%. He is 30th in accuracy and 35th in completion rate. It's not going to get it done. And last night, he misses this throw to Devontae Smith. And what happened? This would have been an 89-yard walk-in touchdown for Smitty. There is nobody close to him, and with his speed, he's taken this to the crib, and it's a house call. But Jalen Hurts overthrows him. This is as easy as it gets at the NFL level. And what happens? The Eagles have the punt, and then the Giants go right down the field, and they score. Look at the space that Devontae Smith has right here. He is 7 yards past the defender. There's only a defender here. There is not a defender anywhere close to Devontae Smith. Hurts has to make and execute this throw. He called it a bad ball after the game, and that's putting it nicely. You complete this pass, you score this touchdown, momentum is now in your favor. You get the Giants offense led by a rookie quarterback to press a little bit, and they didn't press all night because they were playing free-flowing football because the Eagles couldn't get stops on third down, and they made the Giants' job on offense so much easier. Instead, you miss it. Momentum goes back to the Giants. They score a touchdown, and you could tell that the tide of the game really changed here. And then a last-ditch effort for the Eagles to try to come back in this game and come through with a valiant victory is on the Jalen Hurts interception to Cordell Flott. And let's do a little bit of a film breakdown here because Jalen Hurts in the shotgun, and you see A.J. Brown in the slot here to the right. And the Giants are going to load up the line of scrimmage, and they are going to send an all-out blitz toward Jalen Hurts on this 2nd and 10 as the Eagles are in the red zone here. And you see the safety, deep safety, right here, right to the left of this hash where the Eagles snap the ball from. Well, you segue to the next slide here, and you start to see this safety creep up. And that is the only deep safety on the field here. And this safety sees Dallas Goedert right here. That's the man he's trying to defend. You see Jahan Dotson on the outside. He's one-on-one with his man. So this, every time that the safety creeps up, is a throw that Jalen Hurts needs to make. The only safety who's back there is starting to creep up, meaning there's no safety help for A.J. Brown, who should be read number one right here. And what's perplexing about this play, it looks like Jalen Hurts is looking at the safety right here. And as the safety starts to creep up, we go to the next slide. Safety comes up to defend Dallas Goedert. And by this time, Jalen Hurts, in a clean pocket, is already making this read to throw it to Devontae Smith. Look at how wide open A.J. Brown is. And so you can tell why A.J. has been so frustrated this year, because Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense have missed out on a lot of these plays that have been available. And I know I've been critical of Kevin Patullo, but he called up the Devontae Smith long ball. Hurts missed it. He called up this play to A.J. Brown, and Hurts instead throws it to the boundary, inside, when the ball has to be outside, and it's picked off and was nearly a pick six. When Hurts sees the safety starting to approach and get upfield, he has to know, single high safety look, this throw goes to AJ every time. Give him a 50-50 ball at the very least, because he's one-on-one with the DB here, and he's going to keep cutting this across the field. This is as easy as it gets. Easy money, and Hurts missed it. So the bottom line here is that Jalen Hurts needs to play better, and he really hurt the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. And I also want to make this point. I'm not saying that the Philadelphia Eagles have a quarterback controversy. I have long defended Jalen Hurts. The Eagles have shown that they can win a Super Bowl with him. He's been a big reason why the Eagles have been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, and the man just won Super Bowl MVP back in February, carving up one of the best defenses in the NFL last year against one of the top defensive coordinators in the history of the NFL. Kevin Patullo isn't necessarily doing him any favors with the play calling and the scheme right now. I do wonder, though, what this offense would look like with Tanner McKee, because Tanner McKee does something that Jalen Hurts does not do. He can layer throws better, he can throw with more anticipation, and he does such a great job of throwing receivers open and giving them opportunities to make plays, whereas Hurts sometimes needs to see it in order to throw it. And if these struggles continue for a little while, I don't think that Nick Sirianni has the stones to bench Jalen Hurts, but if the offense and Hurts continues to look this bad, I'd be really intrigued to see what this offense looks like with Tanner McKee, because the Eagles are going to have a decision to make. Because McKee is in year 3 right now, going to be a free agent after next year, and he's going to have an opportunity to start somewhere else if it's not with the Eagles. Look out for that. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here. We're live on Philadelphia Eagles now. For those of you watching after the fact on this Friday, October 10th, I appreciate all of you for your continued support of the program here. Let's get to your super chats. Addison Hoover, $2. Hey, Chase, Howie needs to trade for a cornerback too. I agree, and I will address that in our mailbag. By the way, if people get some super chats in with some questions, we'll definitely get those included in the mailbag segment. Peter Riley with the $1 super chat. Thank you. I love the profile picture there. Super Bowl 59 champs. I miss it already. Bryce Blackwell, $5 super chat. This offseason and the losses, especially Isaiah Rodgers, are killing us. Bad teams know the offense and the defense will leak because of it. It feels like 2023. It indeed feels like 2023. I'll expand more on that in our mailbag as well. Keese with the $2 super chat. 2 touchdowns Hurts missed. Straight trash. Plus, the OC has got to go. See, here's the thing. Like, Kevin Patullo can do a better job. Jalen Hurts needs to play better. I mean, Kevin Patullo was the one who dialed up the A.J. Brown shot last week, and A.J. and Hurts couldn't connect on it. Kevin Patullo called up the Devontae Smith long ball. Hurts overthrew him. Kevin Patullo called the play for A.J. Hurts threw the pick. Made the wrong read. So it's not all Kevin Patullo. It's also Jalen Hurts. It's also this offensive line. That's why I continue to say it's been a collective failure for Philadelphia. Bryce Blackwell, another 5. Jalen has gotten better, but sometimes shows the Oklahoma and Alabama issues he's had. But he'll improve on this because he's a different quarterback from them. And you're making good points there. I think the overarching point with your super chat there, Bryce, is that Hurts can go through these lulls and these stretches where he looks really bad. He's a very streaky quarterback and lacks consistency. And what's maddening about that is how well he played against the Commanders in the NFC Championship game, how well he played in the Super Bowl. And then you see him play like he did last night, where guys are open all night and there are misses left and right. Don't forget to get those questions in. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. That'll be segment number 3. Segment number 2 is coming up right now. And I want to go through just how perplexing it is that this Eagles offense continues to struggle to the level in which they're struggling. That's coming up next. Shout out to Mike, T, Trey Losado, Tylen Bow, and Anthony on the comment section. We've been hovering around 500 people watching live all morning. We're glad that all of you are hanging out here with me. If you want some First Form supplements, by the way, let me know. I'm a brand ambassador for them. And reach out to me. I can get you hooked up. All right, segment number 2 coming up right now. Let's get into it. Yo, welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Senior. As always, thank you so much for supporting the program here. So many talented content creators out there and other content options. So anytime you decide to hang out here with us and get your Eagles coverage from Eagles Now, I certainly appreciate that. Coming up here on the show, you don't want to miss the content that we're providing for you. And the question that we're going to try to answer: how is this Philadelphia Eagles offense so bad with this much talent 6 games into the year? Stay tuned for that conversation. But first, I do want to say thank you to all of the real ones for your continued support of the channel. Philadelphia Eagles Now has surpassed 133,000 subscribers. Let's keep it moving. Let's continue to build the empire. If you want Eagles coverage every single day, year-round, that is insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking, where you have a voice, lock us in today. So this Eagles offense going into 2025, yes, had a new offensive coordinator in Kevin Patullo, who had never called plays prior to this season. But you had some reasons to be optimistic given his lack of experience, because this is an Eagles team that returned 10 of 11 starters from a squad that won the Super Bowl last year, and they were a highly producing and efficient offense. This is an Eagles offense that has a bunch of high-priced, high-end players, and through 6 games this season, this Eagles offense, not a hyperbolic statement, has been one of the worst offensive units in the NFL. You don't believe me? Let's take a look at the numbers. They can't block. They can't run. They can't put together a full 60 minutes. They are inconsistent. They have lacked rhythm. Last couple of games, they have been awful on third downs. And this is an offense that is reeling right now going into week 7. They are 17th in points per game at 23.7 per outing. They are 29th in yards per game. Ladies and gentlemen, the Eagles are picking up 274.5 yards per game offensively. Not going to get it done. They are averaging 4.7 yards per play, 28th in the league. They have now dropped to a 34.6% third down conversion rate. That is 27th in the NFL. And while the red zone offense has been dominant last couple of games, it's fallen off a little bit, but the Eagles are still number 1 there in red zone touchdown efficiency rate at 87.5%. If you're interested in looking at the Eagles' defensive numbers, they're on your screen right now as well. But the conversation that we're having today has to be and take place and revolve around this Eagles offense. Because through 6 games this year, there has not been a single time that the Eagles have put together a full game. They've played good halves. They've had good drives. They've had efficient quarters. But they have not been able to sustain anything throughout the course of a ball game. And when we watch this Eagles offense so far this season, what exactly do they do well? What exactly is their identity? They don't run it well. They don't block well. The quarterback the last couple of games has not played all that well. The play calling situationally, rhythm-wise, play calling feel, play calling sequencing has not been good. This Eagles offense has no identity. And these are all issues right now on the offensive side of the pill. Kevin Patullo has not been great as an offensive coordinator. His inexperience is certainly shown. And what I just mentioned are problems with him, right? Sequencing and having a feel. I will say, though, he did draw up the A.J. Brown long ball against the Broncos. Hurts and A.J. couldn't connect on that play. Kevin Patullo did call the Devontae Smith pass downfield. That should have been a walk-in 89-yard score. Hurts missed it. He did devise the play where A.J. Brown was open in the red zone against an all-out blitz when Hurts got picked on that interception that nearly went back for a pick six. And so there have been good play calls here for the Eagles, but this Eagles offense has been entirely too predictable, and that is on Patullo. He also hasn't put Jalen Hurts in a position to maximize his skill set and hide his weaknesses. Jalen Hurts as a quarterback at times really hurting the Eagles, either with his bad reads or his mistakes, the plays that he's not making, the meat that he's leaving on the bone. This offensive line has regressed a lot, especially along the interior. This run game with Saquon Barkley cannot get going. And I've seen some people down in the comment section here on the show saying it's time to have a conversation about Saquon. He doesn't look good. Saquon to me looks fine. He's explosive, he's fast, he's physical. First two plays against the Giants, he pops off runs for 18 yards and 13 to 15 yards. And then from that point forward, the Eagles could not block. His yards before contact last year was just under 4. This year, it's been hovering around 1. That's an offensive line problem. And another big issue for the Eagles the last 2 games, they have been a mess on third downs. And really, this extends to the second half against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But in the entirety of the last 2 games, this is how the Eagles have fared on third downs. Against the Giants, 1 of 9. And this has ramifications because it doesn't let your defense rest. So then your defense, which is now shorthanded because of injuries, gets worn down, they get tired, and they can't last. And your offense also is unable to find a rhythm and a flow when they have all of these 3-and-outs and these short drives where they have to punt it. Against the Denver Broncos, Philadelphia, this is a huge problem. 2 of 11 on third downs. And Jalen Hurts specifically throwing the ball the last 3 games on third downs. He is 6 for 28 for a conversion rate that is extremely too low and a completion percentage of 21.4%. And a lingering problem all year is that Hurts has struggled against zone defenses and Kevin Patullo has had no solutions or no answers going up against zone defenses. And what's alarming there is that to beat the zone, you have to throw with timing, accuracy, anticipation. You have to layer throws, and Hurts has never really excelled with that. Another problem with this Eagles offense, there's a lot, as evidenced by today's show, it is the lack of in-game adjustments. The Eagles have been incapable of making adjustments in-game, and because of that, they have been exposed. And I think numbers that certainly back that up. Them falling apart in the second half of games, them having a bunch of 3-and-outs, not having long and sustainable drives, them struggling on third down. But look at how they fared after halftime in the second half the last 3 games. This is the lack of in-game adjustments. You can game plan all you want. You can have a script for the first couple of drives. How do you adapt, evolve, and adjust after that? For the Eagles right now, they haven't been able to do that. Look at these drive charts the last 3 games in the second half for the Eagles. Fumble, INT, 3-and-out, punt, 3-and-out, 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 punt, touchdown, 3-and-out, 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 touchdown, punt, 3-and-out. 2 touchdowns in the second half in the last 3 games. And going back to my original point, it's not like the Eagles remade this offensive unit. They returned 10 of 11 starters from a team that won the Super Bowl last year. So this goes to show you that coaching certainly matters. And look at these splits year over year for the Eagles. In 2025, this Eagles offense in the second half, 32nd in points per drive, 32nd in scores per drive, 31st in punt rate, 31st in yards per drive. In 2024, the Eagles in those aforementioned categories. Number 2 in points per drive, number 2 in scores per drive, number 2 in punt rate, number 2 in yards per drive. One of the biggest losses for the Eagles this offseason, losing Kellen Moore, going to Kevin Patullo. It's not to say that Patullo can get better, but this is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and it was always a risk to go with an OC who was not an external hire, to bring about fresh ideas, who had also never had play calling experience. Lane Johnson said this about the offense. You can game plan all you want, but when you get in the game, a lot of it is making adjustments. We're not efficient in anything. Last 2 weeks, you kind of know what it is. You know when the pass is coming. You know when the run is coming. Moving forward, we've got to do a better job of that. Now, him and A.J. Brown backed and supported Kevin Patullo, but that's kind of a shot at the play caller for this Eagles offense. It is truly baffling that with all of this talent, the offense has been this porous, that the offense has been struggling this much. And it's really everybody. A collective failure from Nick Sirianni to Kevin Patullo to Jalen Hurts to the offensive line to some of the weapons on this team. Some of the lack of hustle that we've seen from the likes of A.J. Brown, Jahan Dotson, Devontae Smith has kind of been embarrassing at times. And in previous years, really throughout his entire career, even at Alabama and Oklahoma, Hurts has been known to be a good long ball thrower, especially on those go routes along the sideline. But the long ball this year has been missing from his game. And because of that, he's missed on some throws that could result in game-changing plays, which could result in changing the outcome of games. Hurts on targets of 10-plus yards downfield this year, 10 of 28, a 4.8 passer rating, 35.7% completion rate. He's 30th in accuracy, 35th in completion rate. And obviously that includes backups who have come in for starters there. Now coming up next, can this Eagles offense get fixed? Are there solutions to the issues that we are seeing? Going to try to dive into that and try to find some solutions to their ailments right now. Let's get to our sponsor, though. We love the Tush Push here on Eagles Now, and you will love the Tushy Luxury Bidet. It will change your life. And right now we have a phenomenal deal. If you use our link, hellotushy.com/chat, by using the promo code chat, you can get this life-altering product here. Tushy is the everyday luxury bidet that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and bottom health for life. 99% of people who wash with Tushy Wave feel cleaner and fresher after going to the bathroom. Tushy Wave instantly modernizes your daily routine and bathroom with a super sleek seat plus 2 separate front and rear nozzles for the most complete clean. It also features a soft close lid and seat that is slam-proof for a gentle, luxurious finish. Every Tushy bidet easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing. This is daily decadence with practical benefits. Over half the people who wash with Tushy soothe their hemorrhoids, and 9 out of 10 people reduce itching and discomfort. Instead of wiping endlessly with toilet paper, Tushy pristinely removes 99% of bacteria while protecting your natural skin barrier thanks to one natural ingredient: fresh water. Installation is simple. It takes about 10 minutes to complete. Literally anybody can do it. It gives you 2-in-1 benefits: reducing irritation and preventing micro tears with soothing water instead of scratchy, cheap toilet paper or damaging wet wipes. This fits 95% of toilets, 8.5 do-it-yourself install, fresh as tap water, no outlet needed. Remember, sometimes as Philadelphians, people call us a-holes. A-hole is only a dirty word if you wipe. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use the code CHAT at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com/chat, and you use the promo code CHAT as well. So a big question with this Eagles offense: can the Eagles change offensive coordinators during the season? That is a very hard thing to do. And elite offensive minds aren't jobless right now. They are employed because they are good offensive minds. And when you do change offensive coordinators in season, in-house, oftentimes it doesn't result in a lot of success. Now, the Eagles do have an interesting in-house option that they could pivot to. But remember, Kevin Patullo is Nick Sirianni's guy. They've known each other for a very long time, going back to their Colts days. And Sirianni vied for Patullo to replace Kellen Moore. But Scott Loeffler is the Eagles quarterbacks coach right now. He was hired to replace Doug Nussmeier, who is now the OC for the New Orleans Saints. And Scott Loeffler does have play calling experience. He called plays at Bowling Green State, and that offense pretty damn good. Going all the way back to his early days as a coach, he was with Tom Brady at Michigan. He's done a pretty good job of developing quarterbacks. Now, Hurts hasn't played necessarily all that well this season, and that could also be on Loeffler, but could he be a better play caller than Kevin Patullo? That's really the only internal option for the Eagles here. And I don't think that this is a guy who's going to be head coach at the NFL level. And so could you find your long-term offensive coordinator who's not going to leave and get poached by another team? Because that's a problem when you have a CEO head coach like Nick Sirianni. But right now, with Kevin Patullo calling the plays, with the scheme in general, the Eagles' tendencies, the scheme, the play calls, the play designs, they're too predictable for the defense. And Lane Johnson even said it after the game against the Giants. We're not making the defense guess right now. And a sign of a new and inexperienced offensive coordinator is an offensive coordinator who is getting play calls in late. This has been a huge point of emphasis for the Eagles that they're snapping the ball too late when the play clock is about to expire. And that hurts you because then the defense is able to set up defensively for how they want to guard and defend you, and they're able to kind of read what you might do. So moving forward, here's some changes that the Eagles could make on offense to change things. And these are also things that the Eagles have done at times this year where they've had success. The Eagles should call a lot of empty sets. This forces the defense to declare their coverage. It also allows the Eagles to spread things out. Right now, teams are crowding the box, loading the box, selling out to stop the run because they don't want to let Saquon Barkley cook them like he did all of last year. You go empty, you spread things out, defenses have to, in turn, spread out their defensive personnel. And then what this can also lead to, some quarterback draws for Jalen Hurts, which we haven't seen this season at all. I also want to see the Eagles run more outside zone and RPOs. This helps out Saquon Barkley. It helps out Jalen Hurts. And it helps out Saquon because right now when he's running in between the tackles, there's nothing there. And he's getting tackled for losses frequently. He gets to the outside, less bodies, clearer vision line for him. He gets out to the perimeter, out to the edge. He can make guys miss, and there's more real estate to work with. It helps out Jalen Hurts because on those RPOs, with the outside zone, he can elect to keep it, and he can get the ground game going, which can inject some life into the Eagles offense. It also, on the RPOs, on rollouts, allows Hurts to get out on the move to throw some easy passes. I also want to see the Eagles run 11 personnel more. 3 receivers, 1 tight end. This also allows you to spread the field with 1 running back. I think that Kevin Patullo should run Jalen Hurts a little bit more. Now, you have to balance this because you don't want to see Hurts get hit, injured, and that can happen when you're running the ball. But it also makes the offense harder to defend, and what's an aforementioned problem that I just mentioned. Right now, they're too easy to defend. And this is kind of bold, but I think this is something that needs to happen. As a CEO head coach, Nick Sirianni preaches doing little things that require no talent. I think Nick Sirianni should bench some of the wide receivers with effort issues. If they are giving up on routes, if they're not running with Jalen Hurts as he tries to extend plays, if they don't block, send a message, make an example of them, and sit their ass on the bench. Because right now we've seen far too many instances of wide receivers loafing, wide receivers not playing until the end of the play, wide receivers not blocking. And in particular, I'm talking to A.J. Brown. It's unacceptable. And I know that Jalen Hurts, as evidenced by what we talked about earlier, has been bad throwing the ball downfield. I'm willing to continue this because you need to stretch things vertically to open up things underneath, which can in turn also benefit the ground game. But Hurts has shown throughout his career, he is a very effective and capable deep ball thrower. And I think over time, he is going to hit on some of the misses that he's had. Another personnel change that the Eagles could make, you can't play Brett Toth at left guard. And I think that he's not good enough to be on an NFL roster. But this year, he's been horrible in place of Landon Dickerson, who also wasn't good. But he's getting blown up on the interior on passing plays. And then he can't open up holes for the running backs in the ground game. And the Giants did something on Thursday night to exploit the weakness that is Brett Toth. They lined up Brian Burns and Abdul Carter over the guard. They ran some twists, stunts, and gains to get premier pass rushers on Brett Toth, and he couldn't hold up. And really along this entire offensive line, everybody's been bad. Jordan Mailata hasn't been the same player after he got off to a good start earlier this year. Landon Dickerson looked banged up, was banged up, played poorly. Cam Jurgens hasn't been the same guy. Tyler Steen has actually probably been the best offensive lineman maybe for this Eagles team, and Lane Johnson's been up and down because he's been in and out of the lineup. Furthermore, I think the Eagles need to run more plays under center, and that's both throwing it and running it. Jalen Hurts has shown that he can throw from under center in the deep drop back pass game. And Saquon Barkley has shown that he can run it effectively when they run it from under center, because he's able to get that momentum moving toward the line of scrimmage. Right now, when the Eagles are in the shotgun, they are so predictable, and defenses know what they are doing. Be less predictable out of the gun. Have some wrinkles, have some window dressing, have some pre-snap creativity, post-snap creativity, because right now, what we're seeing from the Eagles offense is not it. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram, by the way. You can find me over there at Chase_Senior, approaching 18,000 followers on X, 41,000 followers on IG. I'm giving you so much free content here. I'm doing the same over there as well. All right, another super chat here from our guy Keys. Rushing ties directly to blocking. If we block, Saquon wins. The problem is the quarterback that can't read the defense and has no accuracy. I think at times Hurts gets confused post-snap with trying to read the defense. Against man, he's great because he kind of knows what the matchups are. Against zone, I think that's a big reason why he struggled. And the Eagles offensive line, yeah, you're right, can't block. Money Mac, $2. Thoughts on elevating Covey for punts and kickoffs? You know, that's a good point. I might put him back there as the kick returner. Tank Bigsby, benched. Bad move by Howie Roseman. A.J. Dillon, bad. John Mechie against the Rams, couldn't field a kick. So I think it's time to put Burton Covey back there. Elevate him from the practice squad. Because you know that he's trustworthy back there. On punts, Dotson hasn't done a bad job, but Covey can be better. All right, coming up next, why I think Howie Roseman has failed the Eagles. And we're going to take your questions as well. So last call to get those questions in. If you send in a super chat, I guarantee you, we're going to take your questions. And if you use the hashtag Eagles, we can answer those as well.
Last call. We got some good ones. So
yes, sir.
Appreciate y'all. Think we got enough to get into it here. So if y'all are ready, let's talk Howie and let's take your questions. I'm sure some of these questions are going to be, lots to talk about.
Yep, no doubt.
To talk about.
Get those questions in. So you see I'm rocking a First Form shirt. I'm really into fitness and wellness. I'm a brand ambassador for them. So if you're looking for supplements to be healthier, stronger, recover better, if you're looking for workout gear, I just threw that link in the chat. Use my custom link, and you can get some supplements and workout gear. Appreciate all of your support for me personally, obviously, and then on the channel as well. And obviously our other sponsors that we have here under the Chat Sports umbrella. All right, segment number 3 is coming up, and I want to have a conversation that I don't think a lot of people are willing to have. So let's get into that right now. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And coming up here on today's edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now, I want to have a conversation that's a tough conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had that nobody is willing to have. Has Howie Roseman failed this version of the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles? Also, we're going to take your questions by using the hashtag Eagles or sending in a super chat as part of our mailbag right here on the channel. All right, let's have this conversation here. Has Eagles general manager Howie Roseman failed the 2025 version of the Eagles? What I mean by that is everything that I'm going to outline here on this show. And it's not to say that I think Howie should get fired or Howie is on the hot seat. Don't even hit me with that crazy narrative, right? Do not get it twisted. Howie Roseman is still the best general manager in football, but every GM has misses. Howie has had some over his career as a general manager, and year in, year out, it is up to the GM to put together the best roster possible. And I don't know if Howie's been able to do that with this 2025 Eagles team. Now, what Howie did in 2024 was special. The Eagles had such a loaded roster, full of premier players, all pros, Pro Bowlers, potential future Hall of Famers. The Eagles went on a historic run that was a dominant run, where from week 4, the only game that they lost the rest of the way was a game where Jalen Hurts was knocked out. Their playoff run, incredibly dominant. It was capped off by one of the biggest beatdowns that we've ever seen in the history of Super Bowls at the NFL level, when Philadelphia absolutely annihilated the Kansas City Chiefs and denied their quest for a three-peat. And I think you can make the argument that that 2024 team, with what they accomplished in 2024, how they did it, the run that they went on, and the talent that they had, it might go down as the most dominant single roster in the history of the league. If not the best, it's certainly up there. But right now, we're talking about an Eagles team that is in a Super Bowl window. And I'm not sure right now, as the Eagles are 4-2, back-to-back embarrassing losses, that Howie Roseman did enough to address the weaknesses and the concerns and the questions that we had about this ball club going into this year. Now, you flip back to what Howie did in 2024 to build that team into being a Super Bowl winner. What he did in 2017, a marvelous job. A lot of the moves that he made in the short term for that 2017 run paid huge dividends. And it was a big reason why the Eagles finally got over the hump and hoisted their first Lombardi trophy and dethroned Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Last year, the Eagles knocked off Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And a huge reason for that, the moves that Howie made as the GM. Drafted Quinyon Mitchell in the first round. Drafted Cooper DeJean in the second round. 2 rookie starters for the number 1 overall defense in the game. Howie also drafted Jalix Hunt. He played a huge role as a pass rusher in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. Howie Roseman signed Zach Bond. Vic Fangio and Howie looked at him as a player who could play off-ball linebacker instead of edge rusher, because that's the position he primarily played with the Saints. Zach Bond went on to be one of the MVPs of the defense, changed them as a coverage and run unit, but also as a pass rusher. He was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year and a first-team All-Pro, and he's emerged as one of the top off-ball linebackers alongside Fred Warner. And they signed him for pennies. The Eagles signed Saquon Barkley. Top 5 in MVP voting, he won Offensive Player of the Year. Howie Roseman signed Mekhi Becton. The Jets didn't want him any longer. It looked like his career was hanging on by a thread. He was one of the best guards in football and a big reason why Saquon ran for more than 2,000 yards and set the single-season record for rushing yards, regular season, postseason combined. The Eagles realized in 2023, after they let C.J. Gardner-Johnson walk, that they missed his toughness, his spirit, his ball-hawking abilities, his swagger, and his confidence. Howie realized that the defense missed a level of intensity that CJ brought them. So he brought him back. And he was a starter at that safety spot and one of the top safeties in the game last year. He restructured the contract of Josh Sweat, made him much more affordable. Sweat had a great year. Howie Roseman hired Vic Fangio, best defensive coordinator in football last year, for the number one unit, and hired Kellen Moore after the Brian Johnson disaster, and the offense went on to have a terrific season. Now, as far as the moves that Howie made this offseason, I get letting Darius Slay walk. 35-year-old corner, clearly declining, knee issues. He's played pretty well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I can understand why the Eagles wanted to let a high-priced veteran go. But it was always a no-brainer to bring back Isaiah Rodgers. Anytime he played for the Eagles last year, he played really well. When he was thrust into action, he played lockdown play at corner. He was also a very valuable returner. This year, the Eagles cannot field a frickin' kick. And he signed with the Minnesota Vikings on a very affordable contract. 2 years, $11 million. And right now, he is a starting outside corner for Brian Flores, who is one of the top defensive coordinators in football. You're telling me the Eagles couldn't have signed Rodgers to a 2-year, $11 million deal? Instead, they went cheap with Adoree Jackson. They banked on the development of Kelee Ringo. And I know that Kelee, they wanted to see him play a little bit longer. That's also on the Eagles coaching staff and on Howie for missing on their evaluation on Kelee. And you had issues at corner 2, letting Slay go. It was a no-brainer to bring back Rodgers. And what is he doing this year? Literally one of the best corners in the game at a bargain price. And Howie loves these discounted deals. Overall PFF grade of 82.2. That ranks 4th among 169 corners. A coverage grade of 86.1, second in the NFL. He has 1 pick. He has allowed a passer rating when targeted, a 44.9, and he has 2 defensive touchdowns. Both of them came in the same game. But those numbers are the whole sample size. And if Brian Flores is going to trust you, that's pretty telling. And now here we are going into week 7. Adoree Jackson, cheap, and he stinks. A flat-out F grade against his former team in the Giants. He was bad in coverage. He couldn't tackle. And did you see his attempt to stop Cam Skattebo on one of his 3 touchdowns? Just put a shoulder into him. Didn't even try to wrap up. You think that's bringing down one of the more physical running backs in the game? Kelee Ringo, on the other hand, is big and fast, but can't cover or tackle. Howie Roseman traded for Jacorian Bennett. He was injured with the Raiders, now on IR with the Eagles. He's given you nothing. What's been a big problem on offense for this Eagles team this year? Really, 2. They can't run the football, and their offensive line has been bad. The Eagles could have paid and afforded to give Mekhi Becton $10 million per year. He was a road grader in the ground game in 2024. A lot of Saquon Barkley's success running behind Mekhi Becton and a healthy Landon Dickerson. Dickerson's been banged up and bad all season. You lose Mekhi Becton, and I know that Tyler Steen has played pretty well this year, but he's not Mekhi Becton, and he's not the mauler that Becton is. And what's unfortunate for Becton is that he's gone to the Chargers, hasn't really played that well. He resurrected his career with the Eagles. He was a great scheme fit for the Eagles. Jeff Stoutland really liked him. You turn garbage into gold. It made so much sense to bring him back and retain him, for him to continue to play really well as he finally found himself. at the guard spot after he was a failed offensive tackle, and he let him walk. After it was a great signing and a great player developmental story. Now, the Eagles were never going to give Josh Sweat $19 million per year. He was another homegrown player who the Eagles really developed, who was great last year, had 11 sacks back in 2022, and I get not giving him $19 million per season. But the issue with letting him go is that the Eagles never found an edge rusher replacement. They were banking on Nolan Smith, who's been injured throughout his NFL career and at Georgia, to stay healthy and continue his development. Prior to his injury, wasn't doing much. The Eagles were relying on Jalen Hurts to take that leap. But Jalen Hurts, a raw player who started his college career as a safety at Cornell and then went to Houston Baptist. It's not a football factory by any means. And Nolan Smith hurt once again. Jalen Hurts has no sacks. And the leading sack producer at edge is Darius Smith, 1.5 sacks, who is an older veteran who you signed off the street after week 1. Howie Roseman didn't find an edge rusher replacement. And the Eagles can't get after the quarterback consistently. I always hated the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. And I understand that he's not an easy player to deal with. He's not an easy player to manage. And this has nothing to do with what the Eagles got back for C.J. Gardner-Johnson or the fact that the Texans released him and now he's on the Ravens practice squad alongside Kenyon Green, who the Eagles got back in this trade. My point here in trading away C.J. Gardner-Johnson, when he was with this team in 2022, he was great. When he was with this team in 2024, he was great. In 2023, this Eagles defense was soft. So far this year, this Eagles defense has been soft. Who sets the tone? And who has set the tone with this Eagles defense? It has been C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They could have used his fire, his hustle, his physicality, his fearlessness against the Giants. Instead, Cam Scatterboo ate up, and the Eagles looked scared to tackle him. You didn't have to trade away C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You could have managed his personality in the locker room. And you lost him, and now you're missing him. Drew McCoop been good against the run, bad in coverage. So many blown coverages for the rookie. Howie Roseman traded 2 picks for Tank Bigsby. He stinks. He was supposed to give this team some juice as a kickoff returner. He can't even field a kick. And in the backfield, he's not getting any carries because you have A.J. Dillon and Will Shipley. And I had some high hopes for Bigsby as a kickoff returner. But for this team so far, he's been so bad that he got benched against the Giants. So this Eagles team right now, going into week 7, has a lot of holes. They have a lot of issues. They have a lot of problems. And they have a lot of things to fix. And a lot of those issues are due to the roster construction by Howie Roseman. So that's why I think Howie Roseman may have failed this version of the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to take your questions on the other side. Hashtag Eagles, send in a super chat. But our sponsor for today's Philadelphia Eagles now, our fine friends at PrizePicks. Join the millions of users and sign up today with the #1 daily fantasy sports app in the industry. It's very easy to play. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. I know all of you know ball. Turn your takes into cash all season long on PrizePicks. They also have a couple of new features here. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. Follow other PrizePicks players as well directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. 3-pick power play for some Sunday NFL action. Matthew Stafford against a banged up Ravens defense? Yeah, more than 260.5 passing yards. Baker Mayfield, more than 238.5 passing yards. Jaden Daniels, more than 217.5 passing yards. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Let's open up the floor and take some of your questions here. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. The Eagles have lost 2 games in a row. Both of those defeats very concerning, and I know a lot of you have questions. I have answers, and a lot of you want to get your frustrations off your chest. So let's do that with the mailbag here. Excited to dive in and talk all things Eagles with all of the real ones and the people who are legends who have subscribed to this channel. Bryce Blackwell with a $5 super chat. The offseason losses, especially Isaiah Rodgers, are killing us. The coaching is bad. Teams know the offense, and the defense is leaky. It feels a lot like 2023. Now, in 2023, to refresh your memory, the Eagles started 10-1, but a lot of those wins were very fluky. Then the Eagles' offense got exposed. They were vanilla. They were easy to predict, and then they lost 6 of 7 games at the end of the year. Here in 2025, Eagles started off 4-0, but a lot of those games, the Eagles were lucky to win. A lot of those wins were fluky. And the offense all year has been predictable. It has been very mundane. They have been inconsistent. They don't have an identity. They don't do anything well. They've kind of been exposed the last couple of games by the Broncos, by the Giants, and in the second half against the Bucs when Jalen Hurts did not complete a single pass. So I've been waiting to say this is a repeat of 2023, but there are some 2023 elements with the late season collapse to how the Eagles have started and played so far this season. I will say on defense, the Eagles are a lot more talented than they were in 2023. But against the Giants, that defensive effort, soft. 2023, what were the Eagles? Soft. And it's inexcusable. It's unacceptable. And some of the offseason losses have really hurt the Eagles. It was always a no-brainer to bring back Isaiah Rodgers. The Vikings signed him to a 2-year, $11 million deal. And I get letting Darius Slay go. But you let Slay and Rodgers go. And you replace those 2 players with Adoree Jackson, who stinks. Vic Fangio said before the year he took a shot at Adoree. He said the Titans let him go, the Giants let him go for a reason. And we're seeing why. The guy's a scrub. Can't tackle, can't cover. Meanwhile, Isaiah Rodgers has the second highest coverage grade among all corners in the NFL, and the Vikings got him for a 2-year deal worth $11 million. Bad miss by Howie, and a rare miss by Howie. Keys, $5 super chat. Rushing ties directly to blocking. If we block, Saquon wins. The problem is the quarterback can't read the defense and has no accuracy. All right, so a 2-parter here. This Eagles offensive line has regressed severely this season. Landon Dickerson, when he was in the game, was not right and was not playing well. Cam Jurgens, offseason back surgery, he got a bag. Hasn't been good. Jordan Mailata, first couple of games was good. Last couple of games has not been good. Against the Giants, really struggled against some premier edge rushers. Against the Denver Broncos, really struggled against some premier edge rushers. Lane Johnson, dominant for so long, in and out of the lineup, banged up, and even he has struggled. We've seen the Giants and the Broncos with the likes of Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and the Broncos, Jonathan Cooper, and Nick Bonito, really best Mailata and Lane. And so it has been a left-to-right collective failure for the Eagles offensive line. And for me, the run game comes down to this. I don't think it's a Saquon problem. Saquon, when he actually gets space, looks awesome. But the amount of times he's getting space is so extremely rare. And the yards before contact certainly backs that up. Last year, it was just under 4 yards before contact. This year, it's been around 1. And how many times has he had negative runs? It's because the Eagles' offensive line is getting blown up. As far as the Jalen Hurts portion of your super chat there, the quarterback has no accuracy. He can't read the defense. Look, I think Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore have done a good job in years prior of hiding Hurts' weaknesses. Against man, he is terrific. Literally, statistically, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Against zone, he really struggles. And when you're going up against a zone, you do have to read the defense a little bit more. Hurts has even said that and admitted that. You have to throw with anticipation and layer balls. He's not been able to do that. And so that's a little bit of a problem. Accuracy-wise, I don't think that's been a huge problem for him throughout his career. He has been a great deep ball thrower. This year, though, that has been lacking. Addison Hoover, $2 super chat. Hey, Chase, Howie needs to trade for a corner too. I agree. Howie Roseman, if you're watching, you need to make a trade for a corner too. You look at what the Jags did. They beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. They trade for Greg Newsome. Now, the Browns and the Jags kind of swapped starting corners. And for the Browns, that was more of a salary cap relief move. But the Jags understand, hey, we got something special going here. We need a better corner. Let's go get one. Keely Ringo can't play. He was okay against the Bucs, limited targets. Last 2 games, he's been really bad. And now that Quinyon Mitchell might be out with the hamstring injury for a long time, your level of confidence in Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson, very small. Howie traded for Jacorian Bennett on injured reserve. Don't even know what he can do. I think corner 2 is a huge problem for the Eagles. Another trade that I think Howie Roseman needs to make, trading for a pass rusher. This pass rush, non-existent. They can't get any production from the edge rusher spot. Jalen Hunt, 0 sacks. Nolan Smith, injured reserve. Za'Darius Smith leads all edge rushers on this team with 1.5 sacks. The Eagles signed him after week 1. It's a problem. Money Mac, $2 super chat. Thoughts on elevating Britton Covey for punts and kickoff? I love it. And I know that Jahan Dotson has been sure-handed at punt returner, but Britton Covey in 2023 was one of the best producers as far as punt returners across the NFL. When he was at Utah, a little bit small, he just has a knack for picking up yards as a punt returner. And how often this year have the Eagles had poor field position to start drives? That's because of a lack of punt return juice. And these kickoffs, it's mystifying. The Eagles can't field a kick. I would put Britton Covey back there. You know that he can field it. You know that he can find lanes and pick up some yards. He's very talented in that regard. Elevate him from the practice squad. That's a move I think the Eagles should and have to make week 7 against the Vikings. Because special teams right now, as far as the return game, really hurting Philadelphia. Cody English, should we start Tanner McKee against the Vikings to send a message to Jalen like they used to do in the old days? They're not going to do it, and I don't think the Eagles have a quarterback controversy. I will say this, though. I'd be very interested to see what this offense would look like with Tanner McKee, because you'd be able to find out who the problem is and who's to blame. Is it Kevin Patullo? Is it Jalen Hurts? Now, right now, I think it's a little bit of both. But one thing that McKee does that Hurts does not do, throws wide receivers open, gives them an opportunity to make plays, will throw some 50-50 balls, and throws with better anticipation and layer some balls. Hurts doesn't really do that and struggles in those areas. So if the offense continues to sputter and Hurts continues to play poorly, I would make that decision more of a realistic choice. And I would think about it a little bit longer and harder, as difficult as that might be. Lion Fighter, even though there are 11 games left, I don't feel they are going to try anything different. Do you honestly? I think they will. You know, to Nick Sirianni's credit, they have done a pretty decent job of making some in-season adjustments. They started off as a pass-happy team in 2021. They turned into a run-heavy team. In 2022, they were pretty damn good all year, but they became an explosive play offense, and they had great balance. Jalen Hurts was runner-up in MVP voting, but Miles Sanders that year had a career year. In 2023, they turned it over a lot, and they had no identity. In 2024, after a 2-2 start, they became a run-heavy team. So they have made in-season adjustments, and I think Sirianni knows this is one of his talents as a head coach, that they need to make some changes, and they need to alter some things and make some adjustments. You'd be insane to not. Currently rebranding. I do believe that Kevin Patullo is not it. Could we demote or fire Kevin Patullo and promote the quarterback's coach? That's really the only solution. I don't think you can go with an external option here and have that be the end-all, be-all in solving your offensive issues. I mean, what are you going to do? Hire John Gruden as an offensive consultant? That's one thing. I might do that, right? Hire John Gruden as an offensive consultant. Are you going to hire him as the offensive coordinator, an offensive play caller? I don't think that he can just come in not knowing this offense all that well, start calling plays, and you see immediate results, right? What other OCs are out there? There aren't many, because all of them have been scooped up. They're hired. They're employed because they're good. If the Dolphins fire Mike McDaniel, he's done some nice things with the Dolphins. I know right now the offense isn't great, but I do like the creativity. I like how he's a Kyle Shanahan disciple. I'm a fan of the Shanahan offense. But what concerns me about McDaniel is that his teams were always soft against physical teams and in cold weather environments, which has been the opposite of where the Eagles have thrived. Slick, $5 super chat, last one. We have Mechie and Bigsby. Surely we can use them in negotiations and trading for a corner or a pass rusher. Yeah, that's true. But, the Eagles already gave up 2 picks for Bigsby. Mechie couldn't see the field with Houston, can't see the field with the Eagles. Now, could he be a better wide receiver 3 than Jahan Dotson? Maybe. But I just don't know how much they'll bring you in a trade. Now, you're going to have to give up picks. And if you give up picks and maybe one of those players for a team that has a need for a running back, has a need for a wide receiver, those are options. But I don't think they're going to move the needle all that much. All right, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily, nonstop, year-round coverage of the Birds. Win or lose, I'm always here for you. Washler, put some Wonder Bread on Adoree because that mother effa is toast. 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 All right. Wanted to go live early on a Friday. Therapy session complete here on Eagles Now. Great coverage to come all throughout the weekend. Watch party next week. Live show next week. Be on the lookout for that. We're going to dip on out of here. Have a fantastic weekend. For Chip, I'm Chase. As always, go Birds, fly, Eagles, fly. We'll catch you soon.